Brock Lesnar returns, rallies, and keeps the belt. Football legend Jim Brown reflects on the early days of the UFC. And we look ahead to both Dream and XFC on HDNet. Inside MMA is on. Welcome Inside MMA. I'm Kenny Rice. Kill the fatted calf. The prodigal son has returned. Yes, the king of kicks, Bas Rutten, is back.
Kicks of the sucker kick. I'm sorry, Brazil. Oh, a little teardrop there. But now you guys got to root for us, okay? Because we're going to beat whoever we're going to face in the finals. I secretly hope it's going to be the Germans because we lost to them a long time ago, and we still want to make this straight. But Spain is a great team, too, so whatever, doesn't matter. We're going to win this thing.
All right. Here's our all-star panel today. Just a few weeks ago, he was on this show and predicted this victory, and he got it in UFC 116. Stephan Bonnar joins us via satellite from Las Vegas, coming off the win over Krzysztof Szyszynski. Welcome back, Stephan.
It's great to be on the show, but too bad you guys won't let me anywhere near the studio anymore.
Well, if you show, you'd have to take the sunglasses.
I got to be on top of the Mirage, and I just got pooped on by a bird.
Well, believe me, we've had worse.
Thank God he's wearing a shade.
Glad you're with us. Nate Marquardt returns. Nate, good to see you. Josimar Palares coming up in UFC 118. We'll talk about that in just a few moments as well.
Cool, thanks for
Eddie Bravo, the king of the rubber guard, is back with us. Maybe some controversy recently with the UFC. I don't know. We're going to talk about that. You were in the corner of Soteropoulos, and you sort of resigned. We'll check on that, okay?
All right.
All right. Lots of stuff to talk about, and, of course, we start with the return of Brock Lesnar. How would he do? Almost a year off from that illness, defending his belt against Carwin, who arguably is the strongest hitter in all the UFC. Carwin came out early, delivered the blows. Brock was even dazed. He certainly was stung a little bit, but then he comes on with a strong victory in the second round, and he is still the king of the heavyweights in the UFC. Bas, it was an interesting fight at the start. The question would be, how would Carwin do if the fight progressed? Because he wasn't used to the second round, but we knew he was going to come out throwing, and that he did.
He did, you know, and he looked really good in the beginning. And then I thought, for me, everybody tells me it was this great fight, but to tell you the truth, Carwin did a really good job. Then he took him down, he laid on top of him, started hitting him. Not one body shot I saw. Hands were all the way up. Brock didn't try to pull guard, he didn't do anything, pushed him away once and a half, 2 times. But that was it, just laying there. I think the fight should have been stopped there because he wasn't defending himself intelligently. I was practicing that word on the way over. And because they said at the rules meeting, if you don't do that, they're going to stop the fight. And he didn't do it. He didn't do it at all. I just wonder if he trains from his back because Joe Rogan was saying that. That's the big question here. And to me, it looked like he didn't. So that's a big mistake there. Then in round number 2, great submission, though. He pulled that submission off. Then again, Carwin was really tired. I mean, he could, first of all, that half guard he was in was very easy to escape, to flip over. I mean, he was locked on this side, his leg was locked on the other side. He could have wrapped up the arm, just push him to the side. And then that side choke, I saw it coming, like 15 seconds before, and I go like, oh, Carwin will never let him escape the half guard, because if he does, he's going to secure the side choke. And while he's in half guard, the only thing he needs to do is bring his arm back, because he can still escape it there. But he didn't see that coming, and I thought that was just weird. It was a great submission. I don't take anything away from Brock, but I should say to Brock, he should train from his back, because I wasn't impressed what he was doing on the ground. He was just laying there, bulled up.
Stephan, what did you think about Brock's victory? Was it a great return? It certainly is a championship return.
Yeah, it was a hell of a return, and, you know, yeah, he needs to work on his guard, but, you know, the catchphrase of this is that he weathered the storm, you know. He weathered a big storm, and that took a lot of Carwin's power. And also answered questions. A lot of people are like, well, we don't know how Brock Lesnar's chin is. And I always thought, my God, the guy's head's like a cinder block. I'm sure he could take a punch, and he proved that.
Guys, what do you think about Brock Lesnar overall? Not just this performance, but this really meteoric rise that he's had. A handful of fights. He's a champion. He's defended his title already. And you look at Mir and Couture and now Carwin, who look like the obvious challenger. I mean, he's faced some good fighters right off.
Well, Shane's my teammate, and, man, I got to tell you, I think that was a great fight, and I definitely thought Shane had him. You know, Shane was basically punched himself out when he got on top of Brock. He heard the ref saying that he was going to stop the fight, and so Shane just basically, you know, blew everything that he had on that spot, and you know, he doesn't have a lot of experience in that area as far as, you know, pacing himself, and that's what cost him. I mean, he was in great shape for that fight, but I got to tell you, Brock really impressed me. I mean, weathering the storm, like Stephan said, and you know, at the end there with the submission, I was really impressed. He's a true mixed martial artist.
Brock was able to come back and win. To me, that tells me, you know, clearly that the fight shouldn't have been stopped. You know, if he would have lost later and got knocked out later, whatever, maybe you could say that. But the fact that he came back and won, I think, proves that the ref made a great call and not stopping it. And I think Brock's side choke, arm triangle, some people call it arm triangle, I think that proves that he really is evolving, because we've had wrestlers and big-time NCAA wrestlers in the sport for many, many years, and their submissions didn't look that smooth as Brock's. And Brock's got some great guys with Eric Paulson, and Javi Velasquez is training with Eric Paulson too, so he's bringing amazing submissions into the whole Eric Paulson camp, and you're seeing that right there with Brock Lesnar.
One thing interesting about Brock Lesnar, he has become, to some people, a polarizing figure. He does seem to be the love him or hate him kind of guy right now. That leads us to this viewer submission, a well-thought-out viewer submission we will add as well. Coming to you from Grethel, Kentucky, near the beautiful town of Eastern in Floyd County. Homeboys here. A little shout, little love here to David H. Hey, Bas and Kenny, really enjoy the show. I don't understand why MMA fans hate Brock Lesnar. I guess it's because he's a pro wrestler. But this is a guy who was good enough to join the UFC after only one fight. He always brings the fight to his opponent, never has a lackluster performance. Personally, he's my favorite. What do you guys think? Thank you, David in Grethel, Kentucky. I agree. You know, I believe a lot of it is all the great guys in the WWE, it's inherent that they have that entertainment quality. Going back to the Macho Man Savage and, you know, Hulk Hogan all the way up to John Cena, name them all. And so Brock is a little bit, I think, of an entertainer as well, and also a terrific athlete. So I think he can't help himself. That's his personality.
I know, but I see a world champion match, a 5-round match, but Brock is always coming in shape. So I don't complain about that, because I never got that, you know. We had to wrote it down. Toby Greer said it one time here on the show. The only thing you can control in a fight is your stamina. You know, just run that extra hill, run extra 10 hills. Whatever you do, you can't run out of gas. It's unacceptable. I mean, you get paid to do this, and he didn't do that. But I think on the ground, when he was hitting him, I would have loved for him to switch his hips, pull a guard, and pull him in. You know, that's the only thing, because it's a basic thing to do. And if he does that, then I say, okay, now we start talking mixed martial arts here.
But David, as he pointed out in his question, and I'll ask you first, Stephan, you know, this guy, I think, is great for the sport right now, because whether people are rooting for or against him, they certainly are paying attention to Brock Lesnar and the UFC, who have not necessarily followed this sport.
You know, I personally like the Brock Lesnar after the Frank Mir win, spewing in the camera and offensively addressing the crowd. To me, I love that. You know, that's great. So you could tell he was trying to be a little more modest and win some fans over. But, you know, the more you love to hate him, the more you're going to tune in. So.
Yeah, he knows how to play the heel, you know, and he knows that if he plays the heel, that people tune in for money, because everybody wants him to get his ass kicked.
And you guys know, I mean, that's that old WWE background, right? I mean, Brock didn't automatically come into the UFC. He went the entertainment pro wrestling way first, and I think there was a reason.
Yeah. I think number one, I mean, he's a great athlete, and, you know, he's Division I national champion wrestler, and, you know, all that other stuff is just for show, in my opinion.
Well, either way, as we got the email from David, and as we've talked about, Brock Lesnar has us talking. He has most everyone else talking right now. He might be, in some ways, the most famous fighter. I'm talking about across the board outside the MMA world. People from other sports are paying attention to this big guy who says some things that certainly get your attention, and he keeps winning.
Yep.
Now, back to the rest of the card. Chris Lieben comes in. Hey, you know what? A couple of days, couple of weeks, yeah, I'll be fine. He steps in against Akiyama, and he wins an impressive victory, a submission in round 3 of that. You look at the rest of the card, including, and we haven't forgotten you, Stephan. I'm going to talk about yours in just a moment particularly. But in addition to Lieben, Lyoto comes back and wins, and we talked about him. Soteropoulos, you were in his corner. A nice win for him over Pellegrino in that as well. And Brendan Schaub, you know him pretty well, I believe, Nate. He also comes up with a win that night.
Yeah.
Do you guys like the card overall? Did you like the
Oh,
fights?
man. I thought it was one of the best cards I've ever seen.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
think so,
I
too.
said that.
Yeah.
I said that, that it's